Hello, everyone, and welcome to All Things Politics. Let's get right to it. Who is native or indigenous to North America? Is it the Indian? Is it the Mexican? Or is it the blacks? Controversy seems to be brewing around this subject of this issue, and don't seem like it will be going away anytime any soon. All three parties are throwing their hats into the ring, trying to prove or make a point as to who was here first. On one hand, we have the Indian, the so-called Native American. On the other, we have the Mexican, and on the other, we have African Americans. The Indian says they were here first, and they can prove it. As far as them proving it, that is yet to be seen. The Mexicans say they are indigenous because they are linked in terms of blood. They have bloodlines or lineage with the so-called Native American. Blacks, however, say that they are not only indigenous to the land, but they are the Aboriginal people of the land. And they use, for example, or fact, the colossal Olmec stoneheads in Veracruz, Mexico, as well as in Tabasco, Mexico. They also point to other artifacts. They also point to artwork or artifacts left behind by the Incas, the Mayans, and the Aztecs. So American blacks are saying they have lineage in all three. In fact, were here before all three. The colossal Olmec or the Olmec colossal heads been around for a very long time as well. These heads, blacks are saying, represent their features, their characteristics, the broad, flat nose and the thick lips. They say there's nowhere you can point to Native Americans, Indians, or Mexicans who have these features. And if they do, they are purely melanated people. So there's that argument. Mexicans are saying the issue with them concerns, it I don't think is not as much. It has not to do with who was here first as far as the Mexicans are concerned. Their issue is about reparations. So this is what started this debate. They claim that there is no way that blacks should receive reparations before Mexicans. They even threw in Native Americans, so-called Indians, failing to understand and know that Native Americans already received reparations. So blacks are in line to receive reparations, or so everyone thinks. Well, the Mexican podcaster said, hey, well, we can't let that happen. We will stop that. And that is what started the firestorm. I think not more so to the Mexicans saying, hey, we got to stop that, but more so to the fact that they don't understand or know African American history, excuse me. It's especially dealing with their own country's establishment and wars, things of that nature. Well, I have a clip by Joe Rogan, or courtesy of Joe Rogan. Let's allow his guest to explain further or attempt to give us some clarity on this issue. This is the Joe Rogan Show, or the Joe Rogan Hour, that we're going to use this clip.
I believe it may have happened, maybe people were brought over as slaves, but I don't think that the black people in America came from Africa on slave ships. I believe the people that were here were slowly conquered. First, they got the East Coast, and then they started spreading out west, little by little, conquering. And when you conquer a tribe, what do? You enslave them. They're POWs, right?
Okay.
That's what you do.
I'm wondering if everyone looked at the images that Joe Rogan staff flashed on the screen while he was talking to his guest. Very telling. Very telling. Let me rewind that a little bit just so we can see that. And
on slave ships, I believe the people that were here were slowly conquered.
Look at this. And I'm pretty sure most of these depictions or these images of melanated people, black men, African of African descent, were rendered around the 17th century. That could have been in the 1600s or so.
First, they got the East Coast, and then they started spreading out west little by little, conquering. And when you conquer a tribe, what do? You enslave them. They're POWs, right?
Okay.
That's what you do. So after you conquer this tribe, you make them slaves. Now, how do you conquer the natives here? So let's say you got this tribe is warring against this tribe. Well, this tribe goes talk to the white man. White man says, yo, if you help me wipe out these people, then boom, I'll help you with whatever. So they get together and they wipe out this other tribe. Now, guess what? The white man now outnumbers this tribe. So he wipes them out. You just kill two birds with one stone. You just keep moving like that.
And actually, if people listen closely enough, this is, I think, one of the examples, or could it be the first example of divide and conquer. Again, this is a playbook that they use all over the world. And so it should come as no surprise that they used it here as well in North America, no matter who they came upon first. The tactic was still used.
We were the natives. We were not brought here on slave ships. That's not economically sound. Just
what do you mean?
Make sense. So when Christopher Columbus got here, Christopher Columbus got to the Caribbean, according to
accidentally, by mistake.
Primary source,
right? They
basically said the first thing he did was take slaves. He didn't bring slaves. He took slaves from the island. He captured people. So when you have
now, it not only begs to reason that these are renderings or drawings, artwork from however long ago. Who do they resemble? Look at the headdress. Look at the guard. Who do they resemble? And this is, I take it, Christopher Columbus. Around, I wouldn't guess. I would say members of a certain tribe. All of them represent people of African descent. And they look well established.
Colonization, you got to remember, the United States was only built 13 colonies at first, right? You think this whole land was empty? No, there were natives here.
Right.
But today we're taught that natives is some other people. No.
Now, this is what some of what the argument is based around. And I did mention who brought this argument or is trying to bring this argument more to the forefront. It's a Mexican podcaster. Don't know the guy's name. That's okay. But also I noticed earlier on YouTube, so-called Native Americans, Indians are now starting to drop pieces or content about this very issue. Some not being nice about it, some being very disrespectful. But just listen to this.
No, natives are the melanated African being that has come here since the beginning of the Mali Empire. We're talking about 14th, 13th century. We had already come here from Africa.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We had already come here.
To the United States or to
this land?
Okay. And that right there is what they call the Olmec colossal stone head. This thing is old. It's older than the name Mexican. All right. It's older than so-called Native Americans. It's that old. It's that old.
Mass, this landmass we call the United States. So the way the ocean current works is it works from Africa, leaves out of West Africa, comes to South America and the Caribbean. That's just how the currents go. You don't need no paddle boat or nothing. It'll just, the currents just take you there, and then you travel up. But we had already been here. All you got to do is look up the story of Sarah Rector. Sarah Rector is a wealthy so-called Native American. I think she was a Choctaw tribe or one of these tribes, but she was wealthy. And she wanted a VI pass to go somewhere. And they had her classified as a free person. Why don't we know about the wealthy so-called Black people in America?
That's the part why we don't know. Not just us African Americans, FBAs, blacks, or whatever we want to call ourselves or identify with, but other ethnicities don't know. Mexicans don't know either. Native Americans don't know. The reason is because there was a concerted effort to erase the identity of people. And it started with the Spaniard. The Spaniard, they came here, they start, classifying people by other names. They called them Negroes. I think when the Spaniards left, the priest, the church, the Catholic Church picked up where the Spaniards left off and began to take census and things of that nature and begin to change their ethnicity, their identity and their names. Once that was established, that carried on into when Mexico finally gained its independence from France as well as from Spain first. And by the way, were it not for Africans, that would have not been a victorious battle or win for Mexico. So thanks to, black men who pulled that off. The names are in the record. There are facts. In fact, they're not hard to find. They're not hard to find. Anyway, that being said, the fact remains that there is an erasure of the black identity, and not just from the record, but from historical records. Before there were written records, the erasure had begun to take place. The fact of the matter is that occurred because there could be no way that, especially if you're dealing with Spain, there could be no way we just come out of nearly 1,000-year occupation of the Moor and then come to North America and they're here too, South America and they are here too. That's a double blow. All right. But fact remains, again, there is evidence and proof that the erasure took place a long time ago. It had begun a long time ago. Let's get back into this piece.
Why don't we know that there were black slave owners in America? Why is that not taught? Why is it not taught?
How many black slave owners were there?
Man, the natives here had slaves. They were trading slaves with the so-called white man.
Well, they definitely did that. Natives enslaved people of other tribes.
Right. So if those people are us, the so-called black man, if those natives were us.
Wait a minute, did I just see what I thought I saw? And I'm sorry, people, but those look like dreadlocks. Close to it.
People are us, the so-called black man. If those natives were us, then we have to tell that history and say how we did have territories and we did, carry out commerce and we weren't slaves. We were slave owners.
Right, but the majority of African Americans that lived here were brought over here.
No,
that's
not economically sound.
What do you mean by it's not economically sound? Like there were slave ships, right?
All right, let's say you wanted to have, you wanted to sell,
right?
Would you import? Would you grow it here if it's already here?
Well, it depends on whether or not grew here.
Well, can you grow here?
You can, but we're just talking about like what if we're talking about something that you can't grow here?
So what I'm saying is, people were already here. Does it make sense to go all the way to this other continent to bring people on a boat when we know that half of your stock is going to die? You wouldn't do that.
So how many people do you think were brought over from Africa on slave ships? Because that definitely happened.
I don't believe it.
What do you mean you don't believe it?
I don't believe that story.
But I'm still confused. There's a great history of slave ships being brought over from Africa with Africans that became slaves and worked in the South.
And yeah, there is a history, of that. However, a lot of us wonder, where are these slave ships? Where are these slave ships? It seems quite odd that they could archive, so many different artifacts, and I mean huge artifacts from 2,000 years ago and longer. But they didn't archive, they did not save one slave ship. That's a part of America's history, you know. And in fact, I don't think there are any the world over. It's odd. It's very odd.
So do you think that's lies?
History is his story.
Mhm.
Right.
What about my story? Is my story not valid?
But if you do 23andMe on someone from these parts of the country, you'll find out
That is such a jip. It's a scam. These so-called DNA tests are such scams right now.
they
23andMe?
Well, that's real.
So
what is 23andMe?
So when I take a 23andMe test, right?
Yes.
What's it going to tell me about Africa?
That's a good question. We should find
It's
out.
probably
You
going to
should take
say,
one.
oh, you're from Kenya, or you're from Angola, you're from this, right?
Right.
These things, these borders were created by Europe.
Mhm.
In terms, yes,
Right.
In terms of like what parts of Africa and how it's distributed and what's a country and what's not a country.
Yeah,
Right.
these
By
names.
the Afrikaners and Dutch. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can't classify me based upon a European name.
I understand that, but they're saying geographically, geographic location, you can call it whatever name you want.
Right.
They can tell you where your genetics originated. Like
Right.
I've got some weird shit in me. I got like 1% Asian. I don't know why it's there. 1.6% African.
Okay.
There's also weird stuff that you find in your DNA that like your ancestors and ancestors,
So
someone
let's
was
walk down
somewhere.
that. Let's walk down that
Right.
path, right? So either way, if you take black people here in America and you do their DNA sample and it point back to Africa, what does that say? It says black people in America are Africans. Now, the argument is, were we brought here or were we already here? Did we bring ourselves here or did the white man bring us here? You see, when you say the white man brought us here, what you're doing is you're removing our ability to transport ourselves. You're saying, oh, we didn't know anything about boats. That's what you're trying to tell me. You're trying to tell me that we didn't know that there was a landmass here. Only the holy white man knew there was land to the west.
And it has to be said that Spain, one of the first European countries to do, to navigate, over to North America like they did, they didn't learn any of that until they were taught or educated by the Moors, by black men. When black men fell upon Spain, they were living in the dark ages, brought education to the European, was there almost 1,000 years, a millennium, almost a whole millennium. Go figure now. Go figure. So they learned a lot. They learned how to sail, they actually learned how to fight back and get, most of the Moors out of Spain. There are a few conclaves still there to this day that have remained, black populations in Spain, but hey.
But when you look at the holy white man, he said, when we got here, we met black people. Go look at the primary source. We got here, we met black people. When we got to the Caribbean, we met black people. You think the Caribbean is right next to America?
Let's go back right quick. That's very interesting, very telling right there. And right here we have, you see Olmec, 1500 BCE. All right. Way before the Mexican, for sure.
When we got to the Caribbean, we met black people. You think the Caribbean is right next to America and they weren't in America?
That's interesting.
Doesn't make any sense.
Well,
you go to South
makes sense that you do have people that have traveled, whether it's Polynesians that traveled to Hawaii or people. I mean, there's the Olmecs who were thousands and thousands of years ago in South America. They have clearly African.
Okay. And Joe Rogan, I appreciate you saying that. It might go a long way. Probably a longer distance or taken further than I or someone else saying it, someone that looks like the Olmecs, would be biased.
Thousands and thousands of years ago in South America, they have purely.
Okay. That's the Olmec civilization.
Clearly African faces.
Yes.
On this, I mean, really, the noses, the lips.
That's all African. Don't believe what you're being told.
I mean, they look African.
Right.
And that was a South American culture that existed, and we don't know anything about them other than the fact that they have these gigantic stone sculptures that have African faces.
Okay, and there that is. Again, thanks to the Joe Rogan show and Joe Rogan Hour, courtesy of that video. Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated. So the conversation is what happened here. Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Okay, sorry about that. All right. Okay, cool. So the argument, the controversy around this issue, and whether or not someone want to accept what was just shown in that clip about who is indigenous, who is native, or even who is an aboriginal in this land, whether or not you want to, accept that or not, that's on you. Facts are facts. That being said, now let's cover or talk about the issue of reparations. So you have Mexicans all of a sudden clamoring that they deserve reparations before blacks. And I think a lot of blacks are asking, how do you figure that? How do you figure that? I heard one of the commentators, Mexican commentators, say they stole our land. What land are you talking about? If you're talking about North America, to a large degree, they've been compensated. The so-called Native American, the Indian, they receive compensation. So then that would be an issue you'd have to take up with the so-called Indian. Now, if you have an issue with Texas, California, Oklahoma, whatever, then yeah, that's an issue you'd have to take up with the American government. But as a result of them taking what you claim or profess to be your land, has nothing to do with receiving the type of reparations you're talking about. What we are talking about as black people are those reparations that we can prove affected our people. And today, and to this day, they still do. This country was nothing. It's nothing. It would be nothing without the black man and woman's sweat and toil, blood. This country only exists in the capacity that it does because of the black man and woman, the African American. People nowadays want to talk about what they are contributing to America. Some, second-rate work today that doesn't compare to the genius in the architecture and the construction of this company. This country. It doesn't compare. It does not compare. Mexicans, I think, would have a greater success at getting something from their own government rather than saying, well, black people take a back seat, getting back in the line because America owe us. I don't think that's viable. In fact, I think that's a bunch of hogwash. That's what I think. And again, there's no way you can claim any of this over us. The facts don't support it. The record does not support it. History does not support it. So this is All Things Politics. We would appreciate some feedback, your comments, like, share, and please subscribe to this podcast. The more you do, the more we'll be able to bring issues like this or politics like this to the forefront and give you, the people, an opportunity to respond or engage in this type of content. Again, we thank you. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. All things politics.